In Wisconsin in 1995, a kid named Thaddeus came in contact with a man called the Bone Crusher. Thaddeus and his family had just moved to Wisconsin and he had just enrolled in school that week. Him and his family were having a movie night in the living room and he fell asleep. Sometimes his dad would carry him to bed when he falls asleep on the floor in the living room. So that's what he thought was happening this night. But he was rudely mistaken. He was so certain that it was his dad that he kept his eyes closed. As the person that was carrying him kept walking and walking and walking until he opened his eyes and looked up and saw a neighbor's home. It was at this moment that he thought maybe his older brother's friend was pulling a prank on him. When he looked up and noticed that the guy looked like a teenager, he figured the guy wasn't a threat. When they got to the guy's front door, he threw him on the ground. He then motioned for him to enter the home with him. He walked the boy around the house and then led him into a specific bedroom. He immediately lifted Thaddeus up off the ground by his leg, and even though they were both struggling, the kidnapper managed to break Thaddeus's ankle. This is when it finally dawned on Thaddeus that he was actually in danger. The following morning, Thaddeus's parents woke up and noticed that he wasn't in the house. They immediately called it in to the police. While the police was questioning everybody in the neighborhood, the parents started questioning people also, and the same name kept coming back up. They all talked about a guy who seemed to love trouble and he was almost like a bully. His name was Joseph Clark, but with no evidence leading to Joseph, the police couldn't go off of speculations. Thaddeus was in excruciating pain, so at this point he knew that the only way that he was going to make it out alive is if he befriended his kidnapper. So he started asking him questions about his life and cooperating with all of his demands. The kidnapper had talked about how he had taken other kids' lives. He was obsessed with breaking bones, but he was just as obsessed with healing them so that he could break them again. So he had leg braces. He even had a notebook full of bones that were categorized. Knowing all of this only terrified Thaddeus even more. One day the kidnapper said that he was going to leave the home for a couple hours. While he was out, Thaddeus tried to bear weight on his leg so that he could try to get out. He was not really able to, so he started crawling. He then threw himself down a flight of stairs, but the kidnapper made it home by the time he got down to the kitchen. He told him that he was going to pay the price for what he did. Thaddeus was afraid of what that meant, so he knew even more that he had to get out of there. He decided to lock Thaddeus in the closet. The kidnapper then once again left for a couple hours. Thaddeus was having excruciating pain in his leg. It was also giving him a bunch of fatigue, but he knew he had to throw himself down the stairs once again if he was going to make it back home to his parents. So he did this, and he made it to a landline. Thaddeus then called the police. The police said that they remembered believing that it was possibly a prank, but it was good that they showed up because it actually was the truth. They said that they were surprised that Thaddeus even made it out. The doctors that were treating him said that he had about 2 hours before he was going to succumb to his injuries. He had a bunch of internal bleeding going on. Thaddeus was just focused on being reunited with his family and being treated, but he was invested in standing up to the Bone Crusher in court. He remembered all the details that he had told him about a boy whose life he took. On July 4th, Christian Steiner had went missing from his family's home. Before they went to bed, his dad had checked his room and saw that he was sleeping. But the following morning when they called the police, they found signs of foul play. The boy's window screen was cut, and the family sliding door that was typically locked was unlocked. There was a muddy footprint found at the scene that was bigger than their son's shoe. When they found the boy's body in a body of water, they had ruled it a drowning. But after Thaddeus gave them details, they dug up the boy's body and found out that he did have broken bones. In the end, Joseph was given 100 years in prison, and he was fined $1 million for Thaddeus's medical bills.